Yes.
Okay, great. Um, so my talk is going to be completely different. If Ryan started with deep into the tech behind Deno, and Nick talk a lot about code in Deno, I think my presentation have just one slide with code. Um, I will talk more in a philosophical way. So I will talk about package management in Deno, but I assume that every one of you is already experienced with Node and with JavaScript. So you know what ES module is, you have the experience with NPM. And what I will focus on is how it's different in Deno, why decentralized package management is better for you, and how it's different from NPM. Because if you only have experience in the Node.js ecosystem, there are some things we take for granted, and I want to put the spotlight on them and show you the differences and things to consider. Okay, so who am I? My name is Snir David. I'm a full stack developer currently working at Monday.com. I've been CTO of two small startups before. I like to say that I used Node.js before it was cool. I used Node.js when it was at 0.4. I think it was cool only at 0.8. So joining at 0.4 is joining before it was cool. I like to create professional content, give talks, so you can visit my site, Snir.dev, or follow me on Twitter. So the agenda for this small talk is, first I will touch on the how you manage third-party modules in Deno. And then we'll go to the why and how it compares. I will start with the points where NPM really shines. It's counterintuitive to start with these things, but I think it's important to understand what we get with centralized service, what we give up, and why it's worth giving up these so-called benefits. So let's start with how we manage third-party modules in Deno. So the first thing and the most important, I think, to understand philosophically about Deno is that it acts like a browser as much as it can. So if in Node, the experience is completely different in so many aspects from what the browser expects, Deno uses standards and uses things like they are in the browsers as much as it can. So you have many examples for this. You have, for example, that Deno uses the fetch API, the standard fetch API, as it is. So if you have code using fetch API that works in the browser, it would work in Deno. Deno has the global window object, where in Node.js you have the global object, and it's not transferable. So in Deno, code transferability between browser and Deno is very high, especially compared with what you get in Node. And as a result of using just standards, Deno also uses standards for modules, and it uses the ES modules standard. Sorry. So this code is from the official docs. I think it's very simple and straightforward. You can see that we import an exported variable from a URL. And when you run Deno, use the Deno run, Deno resolve all your modules on the run, and it downloads the third-party modules. So you don't have a package management like NPM within Deno. It just acts like a browser. If in NPM you have a package.json where you specify all your modules, in Deno you just import your modules from the URL within the code. Now, there are solutions to make it look a bit more like you use in NPM. For example, there is the import maps, which will be talked about next week meetup. But they're a bit different. So here you just import the module, and Deno resolves it on run. Now, Deno doesn't download the files every time. So when you run your Deno script, Deno automatically downloads it and cache it locally. You can adjust the caching position, the caching folder, using an environment variable. I think it's very similar to what you have in Go with the Go path, if any of you familiar with that. And of course, you can invalidate your local cache using the reload flag you pass to Deno run. Now, another thing that I saw in the community, that it is recommended to check in your external modules into your source control with your code. Now, in Node, it's very different. In Node, it's like, this is the basic git ignore you have. Just git ignore Node modules, because it's a black hole. No one wants it in your source control. But in Deno, I think because you use decentralized modules, you want your code to be more resilient, and you will have higher trust that it will run in the future. Because when you use just a URL from any random place that doesn't have a guarantee that it will remain the very same code, to check in your code. I'm sorry, locks and integrity. So even though Deno doesn't have package.json, it does have the concept of lock file. In very basic terms, what it does, it takes every URL, every module you have in your code, and it attaches it to a checksum of the file. So that works as a log file where you guarantee to have the same content of the module every time, and as an integrity check. Let's say you deployed your code and then you manually changed one of the modules file. When you check the checksum against the log file, it will not pass. So it's a log file and integrity check in one feature. And the last point is that Deno let you make your own decisions about modules. And this is important for the next part of this talk, where I compare with NPM. So where Node forces NPM on you, it's, I don't know if force is the right word, but within Node code, you have NPM baked in. For example, in the package resolution of Node, it knows to go first by folder structure, and then it goes to what it resolves in NPM. In Deno, it's just the ES modules and nothing more. It doesn't mean that you can't have, potentially, someone can come and develop some centralized package manager for Deno. It is possible. You can have import maps on steroids talking to some specific repository. It can happen, but it's not baked in, and it's not in any way forcing you to do it. So you can do it, but you can have the path of decentralized modules as well. Again, similar to what you get in, I think, in Go, if you're familiar. So let's start looking at the differences and what we get from NPM that we usually take for granted because we are so used to it. But now that you don't have a centralized module manager, let's see what we lose, what we potentially conveniences we lose. So we start with cost. NPM is just free for all. It's free for the package creator and the package consumer. Now, let's say you're writing a new package, an open source package, and it's becoming really popular, really fast. It got to millions of downloads a week. It costs a lot of money to host it, to provide it, the CDNs, all of this cost a lot of money. Now, NPM in the beginning, they were funded by sponsorship from Couchbase, which they ran on. Then they went to become a corporate by itself. So it is funded somehow, and nothing is really free. First it was sponsorship, then it outgrew sponsorship, so you had to go to the route of corporate, and now it's owned by Microsoft or GitHub. It depends how you look at it from Microsoft perspective. But as a user, what you see right now, it's free. It's free to host your packages, and it's free to consume as much packages as you want. You can have thousands of developers in your company and thousands of CI machines downloading NPM modules all day, and it will still be free. Now, in Deno, it depends. It depends on where you get your modules. The standard, let's call it like that, which is also what happens in many other languages that depend on sort of decentralized package manager, are to free write GitHub. Just use GitHub, and it's still free to host and to download. You might say, I don't trust GitHub, or I don't trust GitLab, or whatever it is, and you might pay for a page repository like JFrog provides for some languages or something like that. So it depends on your level of comfortability and what you prefer to do. It can be free if you free write GitHub, but it can be something else. Discoverability. Now let's talk about how you find packages. So NPM acts more like a supermarket. You can go there and find a package that will work. If it's in NPM, it will work with Node. You have this guarantee. You have one standard for all. You can just, let's say you need a package for Redis. You just go to NPM, you search for Redis, you sort by downloads, and you have a pretty good image of what you have. Now, Deno is more like an open market. You need to go and find the packages yourself. So you can go and search in Google Redis Deno and find packages for Deno, but it will not be in a centralized place. Maybe you'll find it in some blog post, or you will find some repo in GitHub or in GitLab or wherever. So it's less centralized. You just find it wherever. So it might be a problem for some, it might be benefit for someone else, but it's something to consider. Comparing modules. So NPM as a centralized service allow you to have standard metrics across the board. So you can see for all packages in NPM how much downloads it have, what dependencies it have, how active it is. And it's measured in the same way for all packages. So if you try to compare modules initially using this metadata, it's easier with NPM because you see how much downloads this package have against this package, and it's measured in the same way. So it gives you a ballpark of where we stand. And in Deno, since you don't have a centralized place, as I mentioned before, let's say you find a package in GitHub and another package someone mentioned in a blog post, another package in GitLab. So in GitHub, you try to compare by how much stars it got. In GitLab, you don't have something like that. So it's a bit harder to rely on this high-level metrics. You need to do your research a bit better and not just rely on, let's search for Redis. What's the highest downloads? I pick this. So let's go to the nice part. What do we gain by having a decentralized module? So first, let's talk about privacy. NPM is a for-profit company. And now we can say NPM, we can say just Microsoft. So Microsoft is a for-profit company, and it will do whatever it needs to make profit. So NPM tracks everything you do as a centralized service. They know what packages you use, you know when you download it. So for example, by knowing just when, they can say, okay, this company is from Israel by the time they most download packages. They know when your servers, like, compared to the local computers you have, when your servers download, they can attach it to you. They even know right now they have the service for security issues, so they know for your service what security issues you have. This kind of stuff is the stuff you give to a company, to a centralized provider, without thinking about it. And this stuff really has a cost, I think, in my opinion. But in Deno, you don't have to give up this stuff. And you can see it all the way in Deno. So for example, Deno have a first-class support for proxies, not just for module downloads, but for any network call. But this is baked into Deno, and it's really easy to set up. So it even goes higher than just having decentralized modules that can track you. You can also set up a proxy and hide even better. You have the freedom to choose your own providers. You can choose who gets your data, and it's easier to set up your own server to provide modules. So privacy is really much stronger with Deno. Let's talk about control. NPM is privately held. Now, I saw in the comments someone said, all hail GitHub and Microsoft or something like that. And, we all think like, hey, it's really good that Microsoft came in and saved the Node.js community. They bought NPM, now we don't have to worry. But I will argue we have to worry, because just a few years ago, Microsoft said that open source is cancer. So right now, Microsoft is the benevolent dictator we all like, but who's to say this will continue? Who's to say that there won't be a CEO change and will decide that this thing, this GitHub thing and this NPM thing is not worth it and it needs to be more profitable. And let's say they close down parts of NPM and the entire ecosystem is dependent on NPM to be alive. The entire Node.js ecosystem, this is a failure point, a single failure point in the ecosystem. And it's controlled by one company, by one for-profit company. Now, it sounds scary, but of course, right now, everything is cool, it works. GitHub and Microsoft, they love open source, but it's something to consider. This is held by a private company. And in Deno, it's your choice. You choose where you get your modules. You choose to rely on GitHub. You choose to rely on GitLab if you trust it better, or you choose to rely on some other private provider that you pay to hold your privacy and hold your data. So basically, you can decide where you feel comfortable with it, and it's not a single point of failure. So basically, freedom has a price. You give up some sort of things you get with a centralized repository such as NPM, but you gain some other things. You gain freedom. And to get this freedom is always to pay by all these conveniences you get. But I think it's worth it. I think that, in today's world, where everyone talks about black swans because of COVID, it's not unimaginable that one day Microsoft will just jump on NPM and say, no, that's it. And the entire ecosystem is reliant on it. Be prepared for black swans is what everyone says these days. And I think it's worth it not just for this. It's worth it for your privacy. It's worth it for a healthier ecosystem. So that's it for me. If you like my content, follow me on Twitter at Snir D. And that's it. Thank you.